Is it possible that you or someone you love is affected by prescription drug abuse? According to the Clinton Foundation, one person dies every 19 minutes due to prescription drug overdoses. And overdoses involving prescription drugs now kill more people than cocaine and heroin combined. Good evening, my name is Carlos, and today I'll be discussing why the issue of prescription drugs needs more of our attention. The lack of knowledge and understanding, especially that the youth has, of the extent of prescription drugs acts as barriers to overcome this issue. Social media and blogs now discuss new ways to abuse these drugs and new cocktails and combinations to try. There are sites designated for teenagers, encouraging them to try more and more dangerous things involving drugs. If you're not put forth our strongest efforts to combat prescription drug abuse, the issue and industry will only continue to grow. According to the Department of Health and Human Services National Institute of Health, the total number of opioid pain relievers has skyrocketed over the past 25 years. The number of prescription drugs like opioids has escalated from around 67 million in 1991 to 207 million in 2013, with the United States being their biggest consumer globally, accounting for almost 100% of the world total for hydrocodone such as Vicodin and 81% of Oxycontin such as Percocets. This epidemic has been particularly widespread throughout college campuses. Between 1993 and 2005, the use of opioids such as Vicodin and Oxycontin has increased 343%, and the use of stimulants and Ritalin has increased by 93%. Yet in its worst cases, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, in 2014, more than 1,700 young adults overdosed on prescription drugs. Prescription drug addiction is something that can happen to any of us, even if we might think it might not. This issue can also affect our peers and loved ones, which is why we need to be aware of the impact of prescription drugs abuse. Prescription drugs are something that is seen in almost every household in America. With this issue growing so rapidly, imagine what it might be like in a few years. Prescription drug abuse must be given more awareness. With so many new drugs coming out so rapidly, the best way to stop drug abuse is by educating the population. In today's society, we are very influenced by what we see. One way to spread information is through our screens, and we have seen the effects of it already. By keeping people informed as much as possible, the amount of risk drops significantly. Just a daily reminder can go a long way in implementing the idea of safe prescription drug abuse. Crystal Adams was a PhD and is the assistant professor of sociology at the University of Miami, claims prescription drug advertisements spread valuable educational information about promoted product and conditions associated with the drug. Better educated patients can make well-informed decisions regarding their own healthcare. So next time you see an ad or commercial, don't skip or change the channel. Instead, take those extra 2 or 3 seconds, maybe even a minute, to see and listen to understand the effects of prescription drug addiction. Even if only half those people listen, they can spread the word and create a domino effect to stop this growing epidemic. Now, some people believe that prescription drug ads might only be advertising just for you to buy their product. While in very small cases that might be true, in a 2010 Prevention magazine, they surveyed about 29 patients who talked to their doctors about medical conditions after seeing a direct-to-consumer ad. And most discussed behavioral and lifestyle changes. Over half of those patients received non-prescription or just generic drugs rather than the brand name prescription drugs, meaning that talking to the doctor has real benefit. Do we want to live in a world where people's lives are ruined by a single pill? Today I have a visual aid, as you can see. This is Sherry Kent of Calgary with her son Michael, who died of an overdose back in March. Kent hopes that the picture of her dying son will deter other people from using fentanyl. Now, fentanyl is a prescribed opioid pain reliever that is now being mixed with other hardcore drugs such as cocaine and heroin to create an extreme high. It is said that fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine, and in 2016, more than 20,000 deaths occurred in the United States due to overdoses of fentanyl. While you might not have heard of all these deaths of fentanyl, you might have heard some in the actual press and other celebrities are being affected. Celebrities such as Lil Peep and Mac Miller have been in the news recently for drug overdoses and is later said to be caused by the misuse of fentanyl. If these big celebrities can spend a lot of money getting their drugs, imagine what people like us spending ordinary money off to get drugs off the side of the street can be got with. Or, if you want to live in a safer and more well-educated world where loved ones are not taken from their families. Personally, I know where I stand, and I hope that the awareness of this topic can spread and save millions of lives. Prescription drug addiction is a growing epidemic that needs our attention. If nothing is done about this epidemic, we will only see an increase in the amount of people affected. As college students and the next generation, we can all be a part to fight the end of prescription drug abuse. We need to build a future that is safer and more educated to make the right decisions. Prescription drug addiction has taken many lives and maybe even some of your loved ones. This outbreak is said to take many more as time passes, but it's up to us to take a stand on prescription drug abuse.